Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Jay Wise and Nathan Drinkard. I'm your host, Cody Ward. Thanks for spending some of your time with us tonight. As a reminder to all our listeners, besides being on all your favorite podcast platforms, A Drink of Wisdom is also on YouTube with each show segment available. Head on over. If you like what you hear, we'd appreciate your subscription. What's going on, guys? Happy Friday.
Hey, what's going on? Glad to be here. It's the drink, it's the beard, and it's the wisdom. Let's do it.
Let's talk some sports, baby. Thank God it's Friday. Let's roll, baby.
Let's do it. In episode 73, The Truth is in Question, we reopen the NBA, and Dak Prescott holds out for the bag. But first, Michael Jordan's Last Dance documentary wrapped up last weekend to widespread fanfare and sensational ratings. However, not everyone has been in love with the series. Former teammates of Jordan, such as Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant, and even opponents like Isaiah Thomas, have had bones to pick with him. Pippen is reportedly furious at how he's been portrayed in the series. Thomas has gripes at the '92 Olympic team snub and reasons why, while Horace Grant says most of the documentary was BS and that he wasn't the snitch the series claimed him to be. So, Jay, what do you make of these issues? Serious complaints or just nonsense?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'm of the mindset we got a lot of nonsense floating around in the air out here, and I'm gonna tell you right now. The main issue here is Scottie Pippen. I don't much care what Horace Grant has to say. I'm just not all that interested. Let's be honest. You was the third wheel, and then you ran off. Once Michael retired, you ran off to Orlando. Thought you was gonna ride some waves to more rings. Didn't get it, and then later on in his career, he ran off to the Lakers. I think he got a ring out there, but he was a third wheel at best. He was a fine player, but I'm just not all that concerned about him. As far as the opponents, we know Gary Payton, Karl Malone, they had their own comments. A lot of other guys you can throw in there, guys that were, stymied in their pursuit of championship rings. They got a right to feel some type of way. But also you got to think about, these are things that transpired, 20 to 30 years ago. So, at some point, shouldn't you be somewhat over it by now? But then we get to the case of Scottie Pippen, and there's two big strikes against Scottie Pippen from this documentary. Number one, we have when Michael retired the first time, went to go play baseball. You have the 93-94 season, and in 1994, you have the Eastern Conference Semifinals Game 3, and Phil Jackson draws up a last-second play for Tony Kukoc. Scottie was supposed to be the trigger man inbound the basketball, and he says he doesn't want to go in and doesn't go in to the game, and the Bulls win. And it's just, look, guys in the documentary called it what it was, said, well, it was selfish. He quit on us, and that's something, he's going to have to live with. And Scottie Pippen, his own words, he said, it was, I wish I hadn't done it, but looking back, I would probably do the same thing. So, so this whole narrative about spin and slant to favor somebody else, Michael Jordan, I'm just not seeing it, because it's not like Michael Jordan's the only person in front of the camera throughout this event. Everybody practically was interviewed for this. Scottie had his opportunity to say what he wanted to say, express some sort of remorse for what happened in that situation, and he didn't really do it. He kind of doubled down on what he did. So, and then you look at, and this was something that they covered earlier in the documentary, but of course happened later on during the Last Dance season, is at the tail end of the 5th championship, and in that offseason, Scottie needed surgery, and he delayed it into right before the Last Dance season finally got in the swing, because he was sore at management because of his contract. And that contract, let's go back to that. He signed a 7-year, $18 million year 7 years earlier. And it was known at the time that it was a terrible contract as far as the player's concerned. The owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, gave him advice saying, don't sign this. This is a bad contract. When in fact, and you got to think about it. Can you imagine owners saying that? I can't imagine that's a regular occurrence where an owner looks at a player and says, this is a bad contract, don't sign it. Because by saying that, it is in the best interest of owners for players to sign those team-friendly contracts. It's going to help them. It's going to help the team. And Scottie signed a contract. That was a choice he made. So that choice he made affected him years later when he was feeling slighted, when he was feeling underpaid, when he was regarded as one of the best players in the NBA. He made his bed. He had to sleep in it. He was almost ready to roll on out there and get a new contract. but he wanted to be sore about it. He wanted to stick it to management, but in turn, he could have cost his teammates. And Michael said what he said about it. He said he thought it was a selfish decision. I don't disagree with him. I think if you took a random poll of NBA fans, with some sort of knowledge about this situation that watched the documentary, said, was Scottie Pippen selfish in this situation? Yeah, I think it'd be an overwhelmingly yes answer. Same thing with the game 3 not coming back in the game. The whole idea that you're salty and livid was the word I kept reading over and over. I just don't buy it, because these are events that happened. Everyone had their opportunity to speak in the documentary. There were all kinds of interviews. Everybody got interviewed. You had your chance to say what you felt about it and what was going on. And and Drink's probably gonna get into this, but where's the lie? Where's the lie? Is someone being dishonest here? Did these things not happen? Because everyone in the documentary is saying what happened. You said what happened as well. So I'm just a little confused on what exactly the problem is. And oh, by the way, Pippen, from what I read, he felt like the whole documentary up to Game 6, the final game, when his back was killing him, but he gutted it out, felt like it was a bash Scotty over and over type deal. I didn't see it that way. Outside of those two incidents, I didn't think Scotty looked all that bad. There's just two major instances where he made poor decisions. That's just kind of the way I look at it. But also think about this, and this is something I think Scotty needs to remember. Michael Jordan, the most competitive human being we've probably ever seen, greatest basketball player we've ever seen, a guy who religiously went about the business of just crushing the opposition and wanting to literally rip their heart out of their chest. He had what he said about Scotty as a teammate. He says, Scotty is the best teammate I've ever had. I don't win without Scottie Pippen. And also, anytime they mention the name Michael Jordan, they should mention Scottie Pippen. What an ultimate compliment from a guy who made his living crushing the competition.
So this is how I look at it, right? For those of you that have kids, right? So you raise your kids up a certain way. You tell your kids, hey, make sure you brush your teeth every day, make sure you clean your room, make sure you do all this good stuff. And then, you get up for work or whatever, and you don't brush your teeth. And then you don't make your bed. And then your kid come in and they're like, hey, Pops, you know what I'm saying? You done made a living on telling me to make sure I do all these things because it's going to make me a better person, make me more successful, but you ain't doing it. So you get a little aggravated with your kid, right? It's not because your kid is lying that you're aggravated with them. It's because they're pretty much rubbing salt in the wound by saying, you've been telling me all this and you ain't doing it. Hey, man, Pops, gonna miss me with that crap. I mean, granted, depending on where they're at in their age, they're not saying that, but that's kind of how you're receiving it because you have been harping them on this. Or, with that said, this is how I look at this documentary. These dudes are crying because Jordan rubbed this documentary, put some salt in the wound. They're crying. Like, not one of these dudes outside of Horace Grant, and I'm going to get to Horace Grant, has said that was a lie. Scotty is crying. Scotty, knock it off. You could have been Charles Barkley. Like, knock it off. What you crying out here? Listen, heavy is the head that wear the crown. At the end of the day, the problem you have with this whole documentary is you came in looking one way and you kind of left looking another. Either way, you're still a Hall of Famer. You're still the best number 2 in NBA history. You're still a top 50 all-time NBA player. Those things no one can take from you, really. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, yeah, did your credibility take a hit? Okay, it did. It sure, it definitely did. That 1.8 thing, oh yeah, that was weak sauce, buddy. Ain't no way around it. That was weak sauce. Oh, you mad about that? Oh, could have had surgery during the off season. You decided to do it during the beginning of the next season, knowing your partner in crime needed your help. So you forced him to have to partner up with Dennis Rodman to get the season started. How about that? Mr. Dependable Dennis Rodman. That's who he got to be. That's who he got to shack up with to get some wins, because you said, I wasn't going to interrupt my fun summer for no damn surgery since they don't want to pay me. I wonder why they don't want to pay you. Because right now you looking real flimsy out here. You looking real doggone flimsy. So, of course they don't want to pay you, because you're not making the situation any better. Oh, but then when it get brought up in the documentary, it's, well, I just didn't want to do it. Man, they're making me out look like the villain. Who is they? Because you did it. You sat there and you did it. You didn't play. You forced Michael to start that season without you. And they got out to a bad start that season on top of it, because you decided not to get surgery. So that's on you. That is on you that you did that. 1.8. So you telling me the greatest player in the world can swallow his ego and learn, I got to pass the ball to John Paxson. Who is John Paxson? I got to pass the ball to Steve Kerr. When did that dude get on the team? So the greatest player in the world got to learn how to pass the ball to those players. But you're upset because you're, and I quote, well, you know, my skill set, I was a better passer. I was a really phenomenal passer. I played good defense. Oh, you're a phenomenal passer. So Phil, the greatest coach of all time, drew up a play that said, let me get my best passer to inbound the ball to, oh, I don't know, Tony Kukoc that only hit like 8-game winners this season. And you upset about that? You upset. Oh, man. Well, he really peed in your Cheerios. Oh, my God. What was he thinking? What was he thinking, Scotty? This is off the wall. This is ridiculous. He might have well just told you to go to Home Depot and grab a vest. Get to work. Because that's how disrespectful it was. Come on, man. Yeah, Scott ain't got no great. Scott, the only two people I think in this documentary that should have had a legitimate gripe with what was said, one is Horace Grant. I think, you know, Horace Grant, he did not agree with Mike saying that he was the leak for the Stan Smith book. I'm with Horace Grant to a point of, if he was the leak and you really do think he was the leak, show us some proof he was the leak. I didn't see any proof. It's just Michael saying he was the leak. And then the other player said, well, Michael think Horace Grant was the leak, so it is what it is. Like, ain't no changing his mind. If he think he's the leak, he's the leak. I didn't see no tangible proof. But then Horace Grant made a very good rebuttal, I would say. He said, he out here calling somebody a snitch. Well, let me tell you what a snitch is. Let me give you my definition of a snitch. Is when you go back and you replay a story and you pretty much telling the people that's listening to the story who the story is about. And I thought about it. I'm like, well, Horace, you're right, bro. That's definitely the definition of a snitch in my book. So he was alluding to the part where they was talking about Jordan being a rookie. Jordan said he goes up to the hotel door. He knocks on it. He hear everybody say, shh, shh, shh. Somebody at the door. Hey, who is it? It's MJ. Oh, man, that's just a rookie. Don't worry about him. He don't know nothing. Yeah, whatever. And then he opened the door, and Jordan said this. It was like the whole team in there. His cocaine, his alcohol, his all this other stuff. And he didn't want no part, so he left. Because if the cops come in here now, I'm going to get associated with it. Good thinking. But to say that is to say everybody else that was on that team was doing cocaine and alcohol and all this other stuff, and this is the reason they wasn't good. That is a snitch move, my friend. That is what we call snitching. You could have did this documentary without telling us that. Entertaining, it was. But that's snitching. Where I'm from, you will get your face rearranged for doing stuff like that. That's just how I roll. If you be breathing the next day. You can't go around saying the whole team was in there. Because all I got to do is go look at the roster of who was the whole team and be like, oh, that dude was doing coke. Oakley was doing coke. Oh, yeah, this guy was doing coke too. So I'm with Horace Grant on that. And then the other guy in this story is the pizza man. I'm sorry. But listen, I think the pizza man got a bad rap, baby. I'm just going to be honest with you. Because you telling me, this is what you telling me. no, okay, I believe the fact that it wasn't anything open, depending on what part of the night it was. That's very possible. But somebody got on the phone and said, "Hey, this Michael Jordan personal trainer. We need a pizza. Mike hungry." I doubt that happened. So if that didn't happen, let's say you just got on there and said, "This Tom, I need a pizza up to room, whatever." Boom, boom, boom. That restaurant said, "Hey, that pizza for Mike. Put some cyanide poison in it. We gonna mess this food up. Don't even worry about it. He won't make it to the game tomorrow." So this plot was so elaborate that they went and made you a personal piece of and undercooked it or whatever they did to make it, get you sick. And then on top of it, 5 dudes showed up to get a Michael Jordan autograph. Okay. So now they look, oh, it's Mike. We was right, boys. It was Mike. I knew he was the one that was hungry. You said it was Scotty, but I knew it was Mike that was hungry. So now this pizza man is getting the business because he's known as the guy that poisoned Michael Jordan in the NBA Finals. I don't know. It seemed like a lot. I'm not saying that didn't happen, but the details do seem like we going on a nice little HBO series here. So either way, I thought the pizza man got a bad rap in this. So when it's all said and done to me, I feel like a lot of people are hurt because this brought back memories that a lot of them probably worked very hard to get rid of. Charles, Carl, John, like I feel even Scotty to a point. I think it's a lot of stuff that happened during that bull reign that he wanted to overlook. The 1.8, I don't think he wanted that brought back up. You know what I'm saying? Waiting until the season over to get surgery. And then Jordan say that was selfish. That was weak sauce. Oh, of course he didn't want that to come out. But it did. So I feel like this documentary, it's just a bunch of dudes crying because that salt got put in their wound. And it reminded us of how many Hall of Famers that don't have a ring because Michael Jordan kept them from getting the ring. And they don't like reliving these moments. Gary Payton don't like reliving this moment. Charles Barkley don't like reliving this moment. Patrick Ewing don't like reliving this moment. I mean, the Hall of Famers go a mile. They had to deal with this crap during the 90s. The one, who didn't care about this, who didn't hurt them? Do you see Magic Johnson complaining? Nope, because he had his. Do you see Larry Bird complaining? Nope, because he had his. But who you see complaining? Reggie Miller? Oh, yeah, because he had to deal with Michael. So that's what it is at the end of the day. If you didn't get yours, I feel bad for you. If you know what I'm saying? If you did, hey, that documentary was fantastic. Go Michael Jordan. The Bulls was the cream of the crop, and that's all it is to it. So they just crying, man. That's all it is.
You know what? When you going that elaborate into the pizza man, the words like witch hunt and collusion come to mind. But anyways, another thing, the third guy you could look at that would have reason to be somewhat salty is Dennis Rodman, because you talk about just, and you mentioned it, reliability and dependability. I mean, this guy was all over the place, including during the NBA Finals, went off to go wrestling. All of that stuff, taking a break through the middle of the season, just going AWOL at times.
NBA Finals.
NBA Finals. Can you imagine that happening today?
If that happened today, that dude losing his job. I'm telling you, it's done.
Yeah, and then coming back to practice, and that whole bit where they're sneaking him out of the arena.
Yeah,
and they got all the press like running to try to catch up with him. We probably didn't need to know all that. Like Rodman he'd probably have some reason to be like, hey, cause y'all left that out. But it's interesting because Rodman had some comments that said he defended Michael and said these guys are weak mentally. They mentally weak. They couldn't handle it.
Hold on, say that one more time. Rodman said what again?
He called the guys complaining, talking about Pippen and Horace Grant. He said they were mentally weak. I guess they still are.
Man, I forgot to put the Pizza Man in the intro. How could I forget such an overlook like that? He's right though. I mean, that was kind of suspicious, but yeah, man, this whole thing, I think we all knew there was going to be fallout over this, right? These guys like Grant and Pippen and whatnot. I get that. I believe some of them more than others. The only thing I'll kind of play devil's advocate with Pippen is it did feel like the documentary went out of its way to focus on the negatives, and it didn't. Jordan had his comments. Of course, he said what a great teammate he was and how he doesn't win without him. But the documentary did feel like it focused a lot more on the negative than it did the positive, and it didn't maybe give enough credit, because again, this is the last dance. It's the whole team. It's not just Michael Jordan and some dudes that won 6 rings. If the focus was supposed to be the whole team, I feel like they could have put a little bit more positive stuff in there as well, just to kind of balance it out because of how good he was.
Like what though? Like what positive could they had talked about that they didn't talk about? Just if you focus on Scottie Pippen, what?
Well, I mean, just
defense?
like how
they said that.
Yeah, but just how he's widely considered the best number 2 player ever, right? Like that's what most people think is he's the best Robin to someone's Batman. And I don't know. I just felt like you had the foot his foot surgery, the migraine game, the 1.8 seconds, the contract. It just didn't. I don't know. I guess I guess I'm saying is I understand why he might be a little miffed, but again, like we talked about for the show, we're all hearing this to a second avenue. It's not exactly Pippen himself saying it, so maybe he's not nearly as mad as we think. Who knows? Um, I just think that it's sometimes it's hard to give credit for what he was able to do and how he was able to change his game and how he was able to create that game where he was the number 2 around Jordan. And maybe it could have focused more on him, maybe not. But yeah, I think y'all do make some fair points that there were a lot of this was brought on him by himself and things he did do that it was rightful to talk about. So, I just think they could have maybe had a little bit more.
I would also say about this, when your point about the Last Dance, it's there's more components than Michael Jordan. But think about this: every movie's got a main character. This ain't really a movie in that type of sense, but we know who the main character is. So in retrospect, are we really surprised that Michael looks the best, even though Michael was worried how he was going to look? But Michael's the main character of this. Of course, he had more control in all this. This was his thing. So I mean, you can't be all that surprised.
Listen, redo the documentary, call it The Last Dance, take Michael out, and let Scottie be the main narrator. See how that work for you.
And I bet the ratings will plummet.
I'm not pushing for that. I'm just saying. I'll put it this way: like, if I knew nothing of the Bulls, if I was born in the year 2000 and I knew nothing about what they did, and I watched just that documentary alone and had no context and nothing else, I wouldn't think as highly of Pippen as I probably should. Is that fair?
I agree with that.
Yeah, he definitely got some dust on him after this. That's for sure. I agree with that.
But yeah, the rest of the guys, Drink, you covered it pretty well. I just a lot of these guys, what it is Jordan pretty much dumpstered these dudes all through the 90s, and a lot of these guys are just mad. And even guys like Isaiah Thomas, like he got his in the late 80s, but then MJ effectively ended their run completely. And this big tell-all comes out, and then again it's kind of a bunch of negatives on a lot of these guys. So I can see why they're a little bit salty, but like you said, I don't put a lot of stock into it. And but I think as we go on, more people are coming out of the woodwork and try to get their little 15 minutes of spotlight again, or kind of relive it a little bit. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't think Jordan's going to care much about a few role players and some of these bygone stars being too mad because 6 rings, deal with it.